Hi everyone, my name is Akshay Nanavati, and welcome to the very first episode of our journey into the human experience. During this show, we're going to be interviewing people from all walks of life, successful entrepreneurs, legendary explorers, and in general, people who are up to really amazing things. And we're going to do this in order to find out what it takes to embrace our fears, move through them, and manifest the success and the infinite possibilities that lie on the other side of fear. And this is not just about success, it's also about creating a life of fulfillment. Because sometimes there's a clear distinction between the two. We're not just talking about how to make money and how to do amazing things, it's about how to be happy and create optimal experiences in your life that are filled with joy and passion. And that is why I'm really excited to introduce our very first guest. She's a really good friend of mine now. Her name is Liz Seda. She runs the blog here called A Life on Your Terms. I love her tagline. It's create your own reality, name it, make it, live it. Her motto here is that your life is the most precious resource in the world and act accordingly. And that's what I really fell in love with her about when I first met her, is that she is filled with so much passion for life and enthusiasm for everything she does. So I really recommend you go check out her site, read all about her, sign up on her site and get her Life Lover's Guide to the Galaxy. It's really, really powerful stuff. And when you do, click on About a Life on Your Terms and then click on About Liz. Once you do that, read about her journey. It's really incredible what she's done. She graduated college with a biomedical engineering degree without ever graduating high school or taking an SAT. That is amazing. I did not even know that was possible. And then the amount of jobs she's had, quit them, failed, and now she's successfully running this blog. You can see her. She's all over the internet. It's really, really amazing. And what's really cool about Liz is once you click on About Liz, you'll see her bucket list. So it's not just what she's done with her life, but what she's looking to do. She continued to has a really strong drive and enthusiasm for life, and that's what's just awesome about her. Someone let her tell you all about her life and what she's looking to do and how she does it. So without further ado, here is Liz Seda. Hi Liz, it's great to have you on the show. I was just telling everybody how one of the first things that really resonated with you and just fell in love about you was your real passion and enthusiasm for life. When we first spoke, we met each other through Scott's website at Scott at Live Your Legend. And we got a chance to speak, and I just fell in love talking to you. It was great, and I knew that I had to have you on this show. It's been a little while, but great to finally have you on. So I was showing...
Thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
Sorry, it's my Excited for Life shining through. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, I have to talk.
No, I love it. I got the same thing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's a real pleasure. And I was just showing everybody your site and, the incredible journey you've been on through life. So I want you... Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you went from... born in New York to where you are now. Tell us a little bit about your whole journey through life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in New York City in the 80s in a very poor Hispanic neighborhood in the Bronx. And, by all intents and purposes, I really didn't have a future. I was born into circumstances that dictated that I wouldn't have any other future other than poverty. And the first time I realized that there was another way to do things, and this will become, a common theme in my life. There is another way, is when my mother decided to move us, my brother and I, out of that environment and into a different environment, to Florida. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal to you, maybe, because I know that you travel everywhere, right? But it's unheard of. You don't do that. There are people in New York City who have lived there their entire lives. And let alone people in the cities that I grew up in, they don't move, they don't leave the city. And, not only do they not leave, but they don't believe that they can. Okay, so she removed me from that environment. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was my first signal, there's another way. Okay, so I got to Florida, did my schooling. I had a very unconventional upbringing. I dropped out of high school. I got my GED. I didn't even finish high school. I didn't even finish middle school. I got into university without taking any SATs, without, doing any applications. And I did this. I did this because I always had that, there's another way, because I was such an ADD child that I was always forgetting something. The story of my life was, I'm sorry or I'll fix it, and that's all I said my entire life. And so I always figured out that there was another way, and that became the theme of my life. So although that was the theme of my life, there are still very strong social expectations placed on me, especially coming from a Hispanic family, because I am the only person who's graduated from college with a degree of that magnitude, with an engineering degree. The only person. So, at family reunions and at gatherings, everybody's like, this is my daughter or my niece. She is an engineer. Look at her. She is so successful.
Yeah.
And, so there was a lot of pressure placed on me to be the successful one, to be the one who made it, to be the one the whole family can look up and be proud of and say, finally, we got one of our girls out of that situation. So imagine my guilt, my shame, and their surprise when I decide, after all, that I don't want to be an engineer. When I decide, after all, I want to be jobless.
Love it. It's the life, right?
Yeah, there's the life, but it was definitely scary, one, and two, it was really hard because now I went from the one that everybody was proud of to, oh God, let's not talk about her,
Got it. Yeah, no.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, so just really quickly, I finished my engineering degree. This is my story.
Yeah.
I got a corporate job. I decided I hated it. Quit a year later. Tried to start a business. Failed. Went back into corporate. Quit a year later, and then started my blog.
Wow. That is an incredible journey. And one thing I heard you say earlier on in the conversation was that, that most people just don't believe that it's even possible. And one of the things, I talk about a lot is that the first step is really implanting that belief, because that allows you to venture out in the unknown. So tell me more about how that was shaped for even your mother, and for you, how that got ingrained in you, that you were able to go through such a radical path of change.
Right. Yeah, well, here's the thing. If I would have stayed in that neighborhood, my circumstances would have absolutely dictated my life, okay?
Yeah.
Because so much of your environment, and this is not everything, but there's so much of your environment that shapes the way you are, right?
Yeah.
So when I moved and I saw the difference between my life and the life of my cousins and the life of my other family, I noticed the radical difference in mindset, the difference between I can, and I will, versus I don't know if I can and I won't even try, and those two, that was a mental shift that was critical. Not only, I can, but I can and I will, and I believe that I will as well, and I will continue to do it. And my mother taught me, with all of her hard work, with her moving us out, of that place with no money, with her working 3 jobs to, give me a lifestyle that was comparable to my, I was important to me, young girl, as a teenager. So she worked 3 jobs. She did everything that she could. There was never anything that was impossible for her. When you needed something to happen, it happened.
It's amazing to have a role model like that, and to obviously inspire that belief in you. That's really powerful. Now, I'm curious about one thing too. You said that how you got into college without an SAT. Like, that blows my mind. I read that on your site for the first time, and I was like, how is that even possible? So I love that when you kind of got that belief that everything is possible. But how did you handle the obstacles that came in the way, like the fear or doubts, whatever? What did you go through, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, there was a lot of fear, and there was a lot of confusion, because I didn't plan on dropping out. Okay, what happened was I decided that I would only go to class when there was an exam, and that worked out well for me in terms of grades. But I was in a program, a magnet program, and they didn't allow you to have a certain amount of absences, so they kicked me out of the program. Okay, so here I am. I'm a high schooler now. And I'm confused. I'm making awesome grades and I'm doing really well, yet I still get kicked out. Okay, so that's my first clue of check the rules, because the rules don't always make sense, right? So, other teenagers who weren't as willful as I would have just followed the rules. Me, I was like, doesn't make sense, I'm not following it, and I didn't think that I was going to get kicked out because it didn't make sense in my head. All right, so I got kicked out. I lived in a poor neighborhood still, got bused to my zone school, and I was getting beat up all the time. So that is why I dropped out of school, because I was like, okay, not going to do that anymore, right? So I dropped out and I just went straight to community college, which is something that you can do at 16. And I started studying humanities and piano. And once you earn enough credits, you can actually apply to a college as a transfer student, which is a little that you would never learn if you follow the rules.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love the way you kind of figured out a new path to create for yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now tell me about, so you had a job, and you quit your job and you started your own business and you failed. How did you go through that? That's something that many of my audience, like they've asked, like they're so scared to start their own business because of that reason. But not only did you start it, you failed, you then started a second one, and now you're doing it full time. Like, tell me about how you handled the fear after you failed in that first business.
Yeah. There's no real easy way to do it. There's no 5-step program to say, once you fail, step one is, it doesn't work that way. At first, when you quit your corporate job, when you quit your life that you used to live, and that's basically what you're doing. When you quit your corporate job, you're quitting your beliefs, right? You're quitting the belief that you have to work for somebody else. You're quitting the belief that you have to follow a certain path. And you're quitting your identity of an engineer, of a businessman, of a doctor, okay? So you're quitting all of those things. It's not just a job. And that is like a big misconception, because it's not just quitting a job. A job is easy to come by. It's an identity and it's a belief that you're quitting, right? And one that you're leaving behind for happiness, all right? So when you do quit, at first, you struggle with, who am I now? I'm not an engineer anymore. I work online. But so what? I don't know how to identify myself anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to start a business, you're trying to create a new identity. And then when it fails, you think that maybe this identity wasn't right for you. Maybe instead of quitting your beliefs to be happy, you quit because you couldn't make it. Maybe you quit because you're scared and you start to doubt your reasons for leaving. You start to think that, if I just go back and try harder, it'll work out for me. Except that doesn't work, because you really are, when you feel that strongly about it, you really are quitting your beliefs. And to live a different belief, to live a different life that you feel much more strongly about. And that is not going to go away. And the only way that's going to go away is if you completely suppress it and be okay with living with, a certain amount of unhappiness, discomfort, and resentment for the rest of your life. If you're okay with that, then that'll work for you. If you're not okay with that, then there is no going back. Because once you cross that threshold of, I don't want to do this anymore, this is killing me inside, you can't go back. It's like the Matrix. Once you know, you can't go back. But the mistake that I made was thinking that I made a mistake. And I went back to corporate, thinking that I would do it better this time.
Yeah.
And I tried my best, but still it was soul-sucking for me. And that's when I decided that this time I was going to do it. This time I was going to quit, and I was going to make it. It didn't really matter, what I was going to do. All I knew is that I needed to live my own life. And so once you make a decision with conviction and belief, things start to happen in the world. Things start to happen. The first time I quit, I quit and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm really into it, but oh man, I can't believe I quit my job. Who am I now? I don't even know who I am. I'm embarrassed, So you're half pregnant, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, okay? Once you leave all that behind and you say, this is my life, you make it, if you're in a situation, life or death, you do what you need to do to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you say goodbye to comfort. You're like, comfort doesn't serve me anymore. And you embrace fear, and you embrace uncertainty, and you embrace discomfort. Okay, and when you can do that and still keep going, that's when you're about to succeed. But if you're uncomfortable and you find yourself paralyzed and not moving forward because of that discomfort, then you need to let go of some of those beliefs or identities that you had before that don't apply anymore to your life now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the way you said that. I never kind of thought of it that way, that when you're quitting a job, you're not just quitting a job, you're quitting all the identities and all the beliefs that go along with that. I really like that. I never thought about it that way. So what had you get into, what had you start a blog? I know that, some of the people that, now I know we've obviously interacted with a lot of bloggers, but some of the people in my audience, they're thinking about it, not necessarily have one yet. What had you believe, create that part as a part of your identity?
Yeah, I did not start out with a blog, okay?
Okay.
I did not, actually, I have a journal entry that says, started a blog today, and then, a few weeks later, it's like, gosh, I hate blogging, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do blogging anymore. And what happened is I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew what I wanted to express. Okay, so I knew what I wanted to express was that concept of there is another way and you can live your life on your own terms, right? Those were the ideas I wanted to express, but I didn't know how I wanted to do that. Did I want to be a freelance writer? Did I want to, make websites around that message? Did I want to, I don't know, build up a product business or something that would create passive income for me and then I could spread my message volunteer-wise? I had no idea how I wanted to do it, so I did it all. I did all of it.
Wow.
I did web design for a while. I did freelance writing. I built niche sites. I purchased hundreds of dollars in domains. Every time I had a spark of an idea, I was like, oh, idea, this is it, domain. And so I have so many of those sitting in Bluehost because I never hesitated. I always acted. I never said, okay, here's an idea. Let me sit down on it, for a week and a half and think about all of the things. I mean, yes, I would think about it a little bit, but when the risk is minor, like a $12 domain and some time investment, then you just do it.
Yeah. Got it. Moving from all those things, what got you into the blog?
Right.
I like the terms.
So I was doing all these things while I was actually working at my other job, and I was writing an entry just for myself, just a written, journal entry just for myself, and it turned out to be really, really strong, and like it invoked a lot of emotion in me. So what I decided to do was submit it as a reader story to Caleb Wojcik's Pocket Change site.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this guy's never gonna read this, whatever. And he read it, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to post this. And all of a sudden, it's up on the site, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like on a website, like I'm on a website. And the feeling that I had of like, I don't know, it just felt right. I was like crying. It was like going up to my husband. I was like, I'm on a website. He's like, honey, what happened? I'm like, look, I'm on a website. He's like, you're crazy, stop. And it was that emotional for me, and I'm a very emotional person, so don't take that as your litmus test. But when you feel it here, you feel it here. And here's the thing, because remember I said that I didn't like blogging, right?
Yeah.
The problem was that I never tried it. Okay, I would sit down to do it, and I'm like not motivated to do this. I'm going to go do something else. And motivation doesn't technically come before being productive. Motivation can come during productivity, If you're doing something for weeks and days and you still hate it, then yeah, move on. But once I started to do it, once I started to gain traction and see that there was one person that I could affect, I was hooked.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Now, this is something that to touch on too. When you mentioned when you first quit, like entrepreneurs, I know we kind of have that burden of creativity, right? I mean, I go through that. There's always ideas floating around, and I've had some people ask me sometimes, like, that I got too many things I want to do. How do you manage? And it sounds like you had that. So how did you, you sounds like you just did everything. But what do you suggest for people when they're going through that overwhelming creativity flowing around, ideas flowing around in the mind?
Yeah. I would suggest pick one thing and then start doing it immediately. And if you can, there are a lot of things that you can go through, look at the list, see which one you like the best, which one matches up with your interests, with your skills, with your talents, with benefits, and whatever. You can go through that, but you end up still at the same spot of, these are all something I'm interested in. These could all provide benefit. These are all monetizable, and the difference between them is negligible to you. So again, you are like, oh God, now what do I decide? Pick one and just start doing it. And if you can, pick another one and also start doing it. But don't go all in, 100%. Buy a website or whatever it takes, invest a little bit of money and time into it and feel it out. Okay, because the only way you're going to know is if you do it, is if you act on it. I mean, humans are, really good at thinking that they can act out scenes in their head, but they actually aren't really that good at it, because we do things like prefer to die rather than go on stage and speak, and that's a fact, right? That's in our head. And so we're not always good at that until we actually do the thing, which is speak or, act on that idea.
Yeah, Got it. And that's one thing too. Like, now just to tell everybody that now I've seen you featured all over the net. You're on Live Your Legend. I saw you on Think Traffic. I just saw you on Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life from Stephen Aitchison, and all over. Just because you took a leap and you did it, and that's so awesome. That's so encouraging to people. How you just do it. And you can take a leap and you're featured everywhere. But one thing, like you said, that we get into our minds sometimes. And you had this vision that you wanted to share your message, and when you finally got a chance to share it to just one person, it inspired you, and you took the leap, and now you're everywhere. So, but how do you move from that possibility, like the grand vision of creating this thing, and move past the blocks that are in the way, like all the fears, the doubts? Like you said, sometimes people are more afraid of public speaking, right, than they are of death, and that's a common stat. Like that's one of the biggest fears people have. So how do you move past the fear into the possibility that lies on the other side of it?
Yeah, you never ever move past the fear, right? Because I'm scared all the time. Every time I have to, talk to, somebody who's considered a big blogger, and I work with, for example, Scott Denver and Live Your Legend very closely on a daily basis, and I still get scared every single day. So it's not so much of getting past the fear, it's working through the fear. And then you have to have this belief and this faith in yourself that you can do it no matter what. And even if you don't do it, everything's going to be fine anyway. Okay, so that is the key. The problem is that people end up creating these scenarios in their head. Like, if I fail, then what, the world ends? Or, what's going to happen, really? And that's actually not the case, And I mean, I know bloggers with 6 kids traveling the world, being a blogger. 6 kids, not even teenagers, under 12. All right, and they do this. And so that's number one. Number one is when you feel the fear, don't expect to ever get past it. Okay, because once you get past the fear, you're in comfort now. And remember, we talked about comfort, and we talked about how that doesn't work. So that's number one. And number two, find people who are doing what you want to do and try to be around them, even if it's just via social networking or whatever. You don't even have to, be close friends with them. Find people who are doing what you're doing, because then all of a sudden it doesn't seem like an impossibility. It just seems like, a frightening possibility. So that's what I would recommend.
No, I love that. That is such great input and such great advice. Like, one of the things you had said to me earlier was say goodbye to total comfort and say hello to life. I love the way you said that. That's really cool. So tell me about now. Like, you're working on this blog. What are you looking to, like, what are you looking to do? What's the grand vision for the site and for your life?
Yeah. So, my grand vision, is to create a new school of thought. Okay. So, school of thought where we leave behind, all of the, old tradition, which is in order to fit in, you have to do a certain thing. And now we value individuals in and of themselves, and we value life in and of itself, because life, just being alive, is amazing. Okay, so have you ever walked into Walmart and saw somebody like, whoa, I'm alive, it's amazing, because that's really what we should be doing quite often, because you're alive and this is your life, right? And so I want to create a school of thought of people valuing their life, and that means they value themselves physically, meaning health, professionally, means what you create and put into the world. You need to value that. Your health, like I said, so not only working out physically, but also, what you put into your body. Spiritually, doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you're okay in that area. Emotionally, responsibility, consciousness, this whole thing that we call life. Placing more importance on it, and waking up. So the school of thought, and what I imagine is training materials for, middle schools and churches, and you know what I mean? And I know that sounds crazy and grandiose, but how else are you going to get this message across? Because by the time people are grown up, by the time they're not children anymore, they've already put away their dreams. They've already put away all things on the real life. And so now you have to do the work of undoing what happened to them. I want to start younger.
Yeah, I love that. That's an amazing vision. That is absolutely amazing. And that's one of the things I actually started the show about, is that to kind of redefine how we view success. It's not about the money; it's about living. I don't know if have you ever read the book Flow?
I haven't, but I've heard of it so many times. I gotta get it.
You gotta check it out. But I just finished the book recently, and it actually it just rocked my world. And it's kind of it's exactly what you're saying. That to create an optimal experience that's what it's about, because we see so many people with all the money in the world, they're not necessarily happy, right? They're not busy living through this optimal experience, and what he calls, the author, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I believe I'm saying that correctly, but he calls the flow of optimal experience. And I see that in you when you're saying you're just alive. So I want to know, coming from that place, of that optimal experience, what activities, what drives you to what makes you feel the most alive?
Yeah. Absolutely, and this is so important too, because I'm a huge Ayn Rand fan, and Ayn Rand is very against spirituality. Okay, she's like, spirituality is for fools, and so when I think about my own spirituality, I'm like, I'm so sorry, and because she is technically my idol, but the thing is feeling alive. Okay, it's not about being mystical and in the clouds. It's about being with yourself present right now. It's about, you're not hoping for a future to make you happy. You're not, wishing for a different past. Okay? You're in your body right now, and you feel your life energy, and you are happy to be alive. Okay? So that is what brings me alive, is just to know that I'm here, and just to know what I'm doing in this moment, which is, talking to you and hopefully helping other people. And that gives me so much energy, right? In this present moment, it's not hopefully this video, goes viral and then I make a ton of money. That isn't what it is. It's about being here with you right now, present, sharing experiences, being part of your present, and then hopefully being part of the present of your readers, because right, part of their future. And I'm going to be part of their present and then their past, right? So creating those kinds of experiences, those kinds of connections, bring me alive, and being able to stay in the moment with them instead of thinking of the next step or thinking of what could have been different.
Yeah. No, that's so amazing to create it. It sounds like you can create it no matter what you're doing, right? No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, you're alive. And that's a hard thing to do, right? I mean, many of us are still finding for the next thing.
Absolutely, but the thing is that once you realize that you're alive and that's awesome, then whatever is going on around you is great. It's not like you give up all achievement and become a monk, right? It's not like you're like, oh, I'm alive, so I'm just gonna sit here and be alive. It's not about that. It's about appreciating this life, okay? And appreciating what you have in it right now. And me, I want to go big places. Yeah, I want to be rich. Who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm not,
what's wrong with that? Yeah.
It's not going to affect my happiness or my fulfillment. If I lose everything that I have right now, it's also not going to affect my fulfillment, right? I'm going to have to change around my rules for happiness a bit. I'm going to have to change around my state of mind in, my relationship with the external world. But my relationship with myself is going to stay the same. It's going to stay, I'm alive, I'm living in this moment, right? So.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. I love that. So we've kind of touched on this with many people to quit in their jobs and just to frame that mindset to be fully alive. So what is some actionable advice you can share with the people who are going to be watching the show to go out there and create a space to be alive no matter what they're doing, and then actually live their passions, whether it's vlogging, whether it's running a Fortune 500 company, whatever it may be. There's no right or wrong about it, right? What's something you can suggest for people to take on right now, today, to go out there and do right away?
Right. Yeah. So right now, right after they watch this video, they could do, one thing. They could just sit there and think. Okay, so think about the next thought that's going to come into your head. Okay, and I learned this from Eckhart Tolle, and it was really great. And I do this with my clients all the time. I'm like, okay, client, I want you to think really hard, inside of your mind, and wait for the next thought to come. Okay, so they're in there and they're thinking, and it's not coming, because you can't be present in yourself and also be in your mind. Okay, so it takes a while for that thought to come, and they're like, wow, that was crazy. I was just in myself. There was no future, there was no past, there was no problems. I had no problems in that moment, right? Because you need time to have problems, right? Problems happen in the future, or problems are a result of something that happened in the past. And with no past and no future, you have no problems, right? So that's what I tell them to do, and to practice doing that. And then, you can always go further with breathing and meditation. And, for anybody out there who's like, oh, that's hokey, like, whatever. Like, just do it once, and see how it makes you feel, right? You don't have to commit to it for life. That's one thing. And the second thing is try being present with other people. So try getting into that state of mind and then going, to hang out with your friends or with your partner and actually see and notice, and without judgment, see and notice who they are, what they're doing, what they're saying, and be there 100% fully with them. And, this is going to be really intense for you because usually we're not 100% fully with anybody, even ourselves. And it's an amazing experience. And once you can do that often, then you kind of get addicted to being, just being.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That advice, it's funny. Like that, I was talking about that book earlier, Flow. It's like you're pretty much saying what he's saying. You read the book, so that's awesome. And they conducted like thousands of studies to do this, and that's basically what it is. It's living is just being present with no past or future, and that's really just ultimately being alive. And that's
Right.
the thank you so much for your input. This is invaluable. I really appreciate again your time, Liz. This has been so awesome. Your advice and your thoughts and your whole life story is just fantastic and incredible.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Me
Of course.
too. It's such an honor to have you on the first episode of the show. Really excited, and I can't wait to share this with everybody. And just, you've taught me so much just listening to you. Like I can see the joy in your life, and it's really cool. It's just inspiring. So thank you so much, Liz.
All
It's
right.
been
Bye.
a real honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to staying in touch and hopefully bringing you back on, down the road as the show keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, definitely.
And so does your vision. I'd love to bring you back on as you're moving through that journey. So
Okay. Yeah. All right.
thank you so much, Liz.
Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed the very first episode of Our Journey to the Human Experience. If you have any questions for me or for Liz, please feel free to post it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you thought about this episode, what you'd like to see in upcoming episodes, and definitely go check out Liz's site. It really is awesome. And I look forward to seeing you in the coming episodes. We got so much more for you to come, and this thing is only going to grow and grow. We're going to have a lot more amazing people on the show to teach you how to push past your fears and embrace a powerful destiny with infinite possibilities. I will see you again next time.